Wait, who is she talking about? That was the first thing Kael whispered, his voice half lost in the soft hum of the palace fountain. The air shimmered with sunset light, golden petals drifting from the blossom trees like lazy snow. Across the marble courtyard, a circle of noble girls stood near the balustrade, their laughter light and echoing. At the center of them stood Princess Elara, the radiant heart of every gaze, her voice carrying like music. And then she turned. Her eyes met Kael's. She smiled, and with that effortless grace only she possessed, she lifted her hand, pointed straight at him, and said, clear enough for everyone to hear, "This is my husband." The words sliced through the murmuring air like a thrown stone. Every sound seemed to pause, the flutter of the birds, the bubbling of the fountain, the whispering wind. The noble girls froze, eyes darting between her and the stunned soldier across the garden. Kael's hand, still gripping the rusted spear he had been leaning on, trembled. He wasn't supposed to even be here. The other noble girls broke into startled whispers. Her husband? One gasped. Surely she's jesting. Kael's heart pounded like a hammer. What is she doing? He wasn't of noble birth. He wasn't anyone special. The last time he'd spoken to the princess was 3 weeks ago, when she had passed the wounded line of soldiers and paused, just once, to hand him water. Just water. Just a smile. Now she was calling him her husband. Before Kael could even think to bow or protest, Captain Mirek stepped forward from the marble archway. "Your Highness," he said sharply, every syllable edged with warning. Such words. Elara only tilted her head, amusement flickering in her eyes. "Do I sound uncertain, Captain?" He faltered. None dared contradict her in public. Kael tried to find his voice, but it stumbled out as a breath. Your Highness." "There must be. Come closer," she said softly. It wasn't a request. Every guard turned their gaze on him. Kael felt the weight of stares like arrows. But something about her tone, calm, almost teasing, cut through his fear. Step by step he crossed the marble floor, his boots echoing too loudly in the sudden hush. As he approached, the princess studied him, her expression unreadable. Then, with eyes glimmering like starlight reflected in water, she said quietly, only loud enough for him to hear, "Please play along." His breath caught. He didn't understand why, but the plea in her voice wasn't royal. It was human, desperate, and that was what made him nod. She smiled again, this time brighter. "You see?" she said to her stunned companions. He's already speechless. The girls laughed uncertainly. Captain Mirek's jaw clenched, but as Kael stood beside her, a shadow passed over the courtyard, a distant rumble from the city walls. A horn sounded, deep, urgent, and foreign. War drums. The princess's laughter faded. Her eyes flicked toward the horizon where smoke began to rise over the rooftops. She whispered just loud enough for Kael to hear. "Now they'll believe me." Kael turned to her sharply. "Believe you? About what?" Elara's hand brushed his, her fingers trembling. "That I've chosen the man who will save my kingdom." And for the first time, Kael realized she hadn't been joking at all. "Save your kingdom?" Kael echoed, still half dazed, his eyes darting between the princess and the distant columns of smoke. Elara didn't answer right away. Her fingers, graceful but cold, tightened around his wrist, urging him to follow as she turned toward the palace gates. The guards hesitated, unsure if they should stop or salute, and that hesitation was all she needed. "Walk with me," she murmured. The courtyard filled with whispers as they passed through, her friends' stunned faces fading behind them. Kael's thoughts churned, her sudden claim, the alarm from the walls, and the unmistakable scent of burning carried by the wind. When they reached the inner garden, hidden behind carved stone walls and draping vines, she finally stopped. The sound of the horn still echoed faintly, mingling with the rustle of leaves. Elara turned to face him, the sunlight fractured through the canopy, casting patterns across her golden dress. "You must be wondering," she said softly, "why I called you that." Kael gave a short, shaky laugh. "That might be the lightest way to put it, Your Highness." She didn't smile this time. "I need you alive, Kael, and to keep you alive, the court needs to believe you're bound to me." "Bound to? You mean marriage?" he stammered. That's not real. Of course it isn't, she cut in, her tone sharpened with urgency. But right now half this court would kill a common soldier before letting him breathe royal air. If they think you're under my protection, they'll think twice. Kael's chest tightened. Protection from who? Elara hesitated, then quietly. From those who want the throne empty. A gust of wind swept through the garden, carrying petals across the pond. Beneath that fragile beauty, Kael heard the faint clash of steel from the distance. He studied her, seeing now that the calm she wore was only a mask. There were dark circles beneath her eyes. The tremor in her hand hadn't stopped. What happened? He asked. She met his gaze. The same enemy you fought last winter, they've returned. But this time they didn't come through the gates. They came through my court. Her voice dropped lower. My own council has betrayed me. They've been feeding information to the invaders, waiting for chaos to crown them. That's why I needed someone who wouldn't flinch. Someone the nobles wouldn't suspect was already my ally. Kael frowned. And you chose me? You saved a dying village when others ran, she said simply. You fought for people who had nothing to give. That's rarer than loyalty. It's heart. The words silenced him. No commander, no noble, no soul had ever spoken of him that way. But before he could answer, a new sound pierced the garden, a shriek of warning from the palace watchtower. Bells began to ring. Elara's head snapped toward the sound. They're inside already, she whispered. Kael gripped his spear instinctively. Then we fight. She turned to him, her eyes burning with something fierce and unreadable. No, if you fight, they'll use you against me. You must go. I'm not running. You're not, she said quietly, stepping closer. You're protecting me. From outside these walls, there's something in the armory chamber, a sealed chest. Bring it to me before dawn. Don't let anyone see you. He hesitated. Torn between obedience and instinct, Elara, he said, her name falling from his lips without title for the first time. If this is your plan, your lie, it's going to make enemies. Her lips curved into a sad, knowing smile. It already has. For a moment they stood there, two strangers bound by danger and a name neither had chosen. The sky above them darkened as smoke swallowed the horizon. And as Kael turned to leave, her voice followed softly, trembling at the edges. Be careful. Husband. He froze for just a second, then ran. That night, as the bells screamed and firelight painted the palace red, the tale of the princess who married a soldier at sunset began spreading through Aurelion like wildfire. But for Kael, it wasn't legend. It was the start of a promise he didn't yet understand. Kael moved through the palace corridors like a shadow, every step measured, every breath held. The fire from the outer walls cast flickering, jagged light across the marble floors, and the acrid scent of smoke clung to the air. His heart thumped, not from fear but from the impossible responsibility the princess had thrust upon him. A sealed chest. Before dawn. The words repeated in his mind, each echo heavier than the last. He had no idea what lay inside, only that its contents were crucial to Elara, and to the survival of the kingdom. He paused at the first corner, listening. Voices, angry, hushed, plotting, moved like a dark river through the halls. He crouched low, pressing himself against the cold stone. One of the guards passed, talking to another in hurried whispers about the traitors in the council. Kael could feel the weight of their suspicion, the sharp edge of distrust slicing through the air. At the end of the corridor, a grand staircase led down to the armory. It was massive, carved from obsidian and inlaid with silver sigils of protection. Most people never saw it. Only the trusted, and tonight, he was the only trusted soul she had. Kael pushed the heavy doors open and the scent of aged oak and metal hit him. The chamber was quiet, almost unnervingly so, except for the faintest hiss of embers smoldering from a brazier, and there at the far end sat the chest. It was unassuming, small enough for one man to carry, yet heavy with the promise of secrets. Its surface was etched with patterns of intertwining vines and stars, delicate but unyielding like a riddle carved in stone. Kael approached cautiously, and then he heard it, the softest click behind him, almost like a whisper. He spun. A shadow moved along the wall, nimble and fast. Kael's hand went to his spear, but he froze when a voice, low and mocking, cut through the chamber. Thought you could sneak in unnoticed? Kael's eyes followed the sound. From the darkness stepped Lady Irian, her long cloak brushing the floor. Her eyes glimmered in the firelight, sharp and accusing. The princess's game. Does she really think a soldier like you can protect her secrets? Kael swallowed, mind racing. I am trying. That's all she asked. Irian circled him, her gaze like steel. Trying? Do you even know what's in that chest? Do you even understand what it could mean if it falls into the wrong hands? I don't, he admitted. But I trust her. That's enough for me. Irian paused, the corner of her mouth twitching. Trust Neighbour, love. Kael didn't answer. The question burned in his chest. He knew only one thing. Elara had asked for him, chosen him for reasons he might never fully grasp, and now her life and the kingdom's rested in his hands. With a deep breath, Kael knelt beside the chest. He examined the lock, a complex mechanism of interwoven silver and gold threads. It hummed faintly, almost alive, as if responding to his presence. The embers from the brazier flickered across the surface, revealing a small inscription. Only the heart that dares will open me. Kael's hand hovered over it. His pulse hammered. Heart that dares. That had to mean him. Somehow he was the key. A second rumble shook the palace, closer now. Smoke began to creep into the armory. He had no time to hesitate. He pressed his hand to the lock and the mechanism shifted. A soft click. The chest opened. Inside, wrapped in silken cloth, was a dagger with a blade like liquid night. It radiated power, humbling Kael even as he held it. Alongside it lay a small crystal vial, glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. He had no idea what it contained. Magic, perhaps, or something even stranger. But instinct told him. It was the key to everything Elara had risked. A scream erupted from the main hall, sharp and sudden. The walls shook. Kael knew time was no longer on his side. He secured the chest, gripping the dagger and vial, and moved toward the nearest exit, shadow and smoke merging to hide him. Outside, the night sky was stained with fire. But Kael's eyes found the faint glimmer of the princess's chamber window. She was waiting, and somehow, against impossible odds, he had to reach her before the kingdom fell. Kael crept through the corridors, the chest clutched tightly under one arm, the dagger and glowing vial in the other. Each step echoed softly against the cold stone, a fragile rhythm that might betray him at any moment. Smoke from the outer walls seeped into the palace, curling like living shadows. The acrid smell stung his lungs, but he forced himself to focus. Elara is waiting. I can't fail her. Ahead, the grand hall loomed, a labyrinth of marble pillars and flickering torchlight. He knew this path was treacherous. Every corner could hide an enemy, every shadow a knife. And he was right. From the darkness, figures moved silently, cloaked in black, their eyes glinting with betrayal. Kael ducked behind a pillar, pressing the chest to his chest, and watched as 3 figures passed. Their uniforms marked them as elite royal guards, but not loyal ones. He had heard whispers in the armory. Some of the palace's own defenders had already turned, seduced by promises of power. They don't suspect me, he thought grimly, but they will if I falter. One guard stopped near the center of the hall. The chest, he whispered into a communicator. I saw movement. The soldier is not alone. Kael froze. Not alone? Then from above a shadow fell. A rope ladder swung into view and a figure dropped silently onto the marble. It was Lady Irian, the very one who had confronted him in the armory. Her eyes widened when she saw him with the chest. You shouldn't have opened it, she hissed, crouching beside him. The princess doesn't know. This is more dangerous than you realize. Kael shook his head. She asked me to bring it. She trusts me. I don't doubt her trust, Irian interrupted sharply. I doubt you're ready. That chest carries the only weapon strong enough to stop the council's betrayal, but it also carries a curse. One wrong move, one glance by the unworthy, and it will destroy everyone in this palace. Kael swallowed hard. A curse. His mind raced. He had already felt the pull when his hand touched the lock, the faint humming through his veins. But there was no turning back now. Irian motioned for him to follow. They slipped through hidden corridors, narrow and twisting, passages that led beneath the palace's foundations. The sound of battle above reached them faintly, metal clashing, the cries of guards, and the distant roar of flames. This way, Irian whispered, pushing open a hidden door that led to a spiral stairwell. Kael descended, the chest heavy, the dagger cutting into his palm. At the bottom, the labyrinth opened into a vast underground chamber lined with ancient murals. The walls depicted kings and queens, heroes and traitors, and battles that had long been forgotten. Kael couldn't help but notice that the murals glowed faintly, reacting to the chest in his arms. "You feel that?" Irian asked, her voice hushed. "It's alive. Not magic, not exactly, but something older. It knows who is worthy, who is not." Kael nodded, gripping the chest tighter. Each step felt heavier, as if the labyrinth itself resisted him. Shadows danced across the walls, forming shapes that made him catch his breath. Warriors, dragons, faces of people long dead. Finally, they reached a massive stone door etched with symbols identical to the ones on the chest. Irian paused. "Beyond this door is the princess, but it won't open to just anyone. You must offer something of yourself, heart, courage, resolve. Only then will it grant passage." Kael looked down at the chest, at the dagger, at the glowing vial. Heart, courage, resolve. He realized she had been testing him all along. Not for skill, not for loyalty, but for the very essence of who he was. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, placing the chest before the door. He let go of fear, doubt, hesitation. With steady hands, he laid his palm over the chest and whispered, "I will protect her, even if I must die." The symbols on the door pulsed with light, the ground vibrating beneath their feet. Slowly, impossibly, the stone slid open, revealing a faint golden glow beyond. The princess waiting, her hands extended, her eyes shining with hope and fear. Kael swallowed. Every step from here would define the fate of Aurelian. Kael's boots touched the golden-hued floor of the chamber, and for a moment, he allowed himself to breathe. The room was vast, carved from alabaster and veined with gold, and the faint glow of enchanted lanterns gave everything a surreal, otherworldly shimmer. But his eyes were drawn to the princess. Elara stood at the center, framed by towering windows through which the smoke-stained night poured. Her hair glowed like molten gold in the firelight, her eyes wide, a mixture of relief and terror etched on her delicate features. "Kael," she whispered, voice trembling. "You made it." "I'm here," he said, placing the chest carefully on the floor. "Now tell me what's happening." She stepped closer, brushing past the dagger still strapped to his arm. "The council, they've fully revealed themselves. They've allied with the invaders, planning to seize the throne at dawn. The palace will burn if we don't stop them. The chest," she gestured with urgency, "contains what can save us, but it's not a weapon in the usual sense. It's—" Her voice faltered, caught between trust and fear. "Go on," Kael prompted, gripping the dagger tighter. She inhaled sharply. "It's a mirror. Not a mirror of reflection, but of truth. The crystal vial inside holds a key to unlock it. When combined, it reveals those who betray the crown and those who are loyal. But there's a price. Anyone who looks inside without pure intent is consumed by the visions, lost in lies and illusions forever." Kael's pulse quickened. "And we have to do this now?" "Yes, every second we delay, the council strengthens its hold. They've infiltrated the palace's defenses. By dawn, if we fail, Aurelian falls." A sudden tremor shook the chamber. From the windows, Kael could see flames licking the rooftops, shadows of soldiers moving like a tide of black through the palace gardens. Elara extended her hand, trembling slightly. "I need you to place the dagger on the chest. It's a conduit. Your courage channels the mirror's truth. Without it, we cannot see them clearly." Kael hesitated for just a heartbeat, then did as she said. The moment the dagger touched the chest, a soft pulse radiated outward, illuminating the chamber with a golden aura. The air vibrated low and melodic like the hum of countless hearts in unison. The chest creaked open on its own. Inside, the mirror shimmered faintly, fogged with shadows. Kael dipped the crystal vial into it, and instantly the mirror's surface rippled, revealing faces within the palace. Some familiar, some twisted with greed and deceit. Kael gasped. Among the council members, he recognized Commander Dareth, the general who had once praised him for bravery in battle, now smiling cruelly as he plotted betrayal. Every loyal guard shimmered faintly, marked by a soft golden light. Elara's voice broke the silence. "See them, Kael, know them. And remember, the mirror does not lie. Trust it and trust me." Kael's eyes scanned the images, mind racing. Betrayal stretched across the chamber like a living creature, twisting and coiling with every heartbeat. His hands shook as the weight of responsibility pressed down on him. Every loyal soul, every innocent, depended on the choices he and Elara would make in the next few moments. Then came the whisper, soft, almost seductive, from the mirror itself. Choose wrong and they die. Choose wrong and you perish. Choose wrong, and the kingdom falls. Kael's hand tightened around the dagger. Elara's hand brushed his shoulder, grounding him. Focus, she urged. We only have until dawn. Every second counts. Above, the distant horn of war sounded once more, a reminder that the palace outside burned and that shadows moved faster than light. Kael nodded, his jaw set. He would not falter. Elara stepped closer, placing her hand over his, anchoring his courage. Together, she whispered. Together, Kael echoed, feeling the pulse of destiny surge through him. And in that chamber between flames and shadows, between truth and lies, a soldier and a princess stood side by side, ready to confront betrayal itself and save a kingdom on the brink of collapse. The golden light from the mirror bathed the chamber in an eerie glow. Kael's eyes darted across the shifting images, his mind racing to memorize each face, each subtle gesture that betrayed intent. Every second stretched, heavy and urgent, while outside the palace the night burned louder with the chaos of war. Elara's hand rested on his arm, grounding him. You must decide, she said softly, who to confront first. The mirror will show you the path, but the choice is ours to make. Kael took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm in his chest. Among the council, one figure glowed with darkness more intense than the others. Chancellor Varan, the king's closest advisor. His smile was smooth, practiced, but the mirror revealed every deceit he had woven. Secret alliances, bribed generals, even plans to betray the princess herself. There, Kael whispered. Varan, he's behind it all. Elara nodded, her lips pressed in a thin line. He cannot know we are aware. If he suspects, he will strike before dawn. We must be precise. Kael's hand hovered over the dagger, then clenched it. He felt the pull of destiny, as if the blade itself demanded action. They moved silently through the hidden passages, the mirror and vial secured in the chest, the golden glow pulsating with their heartbeat. Every shadow seemed to breathe, every whisper of the palace wind threatening to betray their presence. As they approached the council chambers, the door loomed like an ancient sentinel. Kael could hear murmurs inside, the tone low but urgent, filled with conspiracy. He swallowed hard. The chamber wasn't locked. Varan clearly didn't suspect anyone would challenge him tonight. Elara gestured. I'll create the distraction. You confront him? Kael's eyes widened. Me alone? You are no longer alone, she said, gripping his arm. The mirror has chosen you because it sees your heart. Trust it. Her confidence lent him courage, but the moment he stepped into the chamber, a chill ran through him. Varan sat at the head of the council table, flanked by guards who had been marked in darkness by the mirror. They all turned slowly, eyes narrowing. Kael? Varan's voice was silky, too calm. What business does a soldier have here? Kael lifted the dagger, letting the golden aura from the chest behind him reflect off the blade. Business with a traitor, he said. Someone who dares betray the princess and her kingdom. Varan laughed, a hollow, dangerous sound. Bold words. But can you back them? The guards moved at once, but Kael's reflexes were sharper than they expected. He blocked the first swing, using the dagger to redirect it toward the wall. Sparks flew. Chaos erupted, the sound of metal striking metal filling the chamber. Elara's voice echoed from the passageway. Kael, the chest, place it now. He did, and as the chest touched the floor, the mirror's glow expanded, searing through the council chamber. The guards screamed, their shadows twisting unnaturally, revealing their true nature. They froze, paralyzed by the mirror's truth, while the faces of loyal council members shimmered golden, untouched. Varan's expression changed, panic flashing. What is this? Kael advanced steadily, the dagger pulsing in his hand. The truth, and your lies are exposed. Varan's smooth exterior cracked. You, soldier? This is impossible. The mirror pulsed brighter, showing every secret Varan had kept hidden. Every betrayal, every act of treachery laid bare. He fell to his knees, powerless, as the golden light seared through the room. Elara stepped forward, calm and commanding. The kingdom will not fall tonight. You are finished. Varan's eyes darted to her, fear finally overtaking arrogance. You used him. Yes, Elara said, her voice strong yet soft with something Kael hadn't expected. A hint of pride, gratitude, and trust. Because he is brave enough to face what you cannot. He is my husband in truth and in trust, even if the world doesn't know it yet. Kael felt her words like a shield, bolstering his resolve. He stood taller, chest heaving, knowing they had survived the first strike of betrayal. But outside the palace still burned, the invaders still pressed, and the night had not yet surrendered its terror. Elara placed her hand over his, whispering, "One more step. Together, Kael. One final step to save Aurelian." And in that chamber, between truth revealed and shadows vanquished, a soldier and a princess prepared to face the storm that would decide their kingdom's fate. The first light of dawn pierced the smoke-filled sky, gilding the palace towers in fragile gold. The battle had quieted, though the echoes of war still trembled through the streets of Aurelion. Kael stood beside Elara in the throne room, the chest resting safely behind them, its glow now faint and steady. For the first time in hours, the air seemed almost peaceful, though tension still lingered in every corner. Elara's gown shimmered in the morning light, her hair falling like a cascade of fire around her shoulders. Her eyes searched Kael's, gratitude and exhaustion mingling in their depths. "We did it," she whispered, voice soft yet fierce. "The kingdom? It's safe." Kael shook his head, feeling the weight of the night lift, replaced by an unexpected clarity. "No, Princess. Elara, you did it. I just followed." She smiled, a faint, tender curve that made the chaos of the last night feel almost unreal. "You were the one they didn't suspect. You were brave when it mattered most. I saw you and I knew. This is who I trust." Kael's heart skipped. The words, simple as they were, carried the gravity of everything they had endured. For the first time, he realized that the title she had given him, the one that had shocked him so deeply, was more than a strategy. It was acknowledgement, respect, love. Outside the throne room, the court slowly gathered, faces weary but astonished. The traitorous council members had been revealed and confined, their plots exposed. Soldiers and nobles alike whispered, eyes turning to the princess and the soldier she had called her husband. Elara raised her hand, silencing the murmurs. Her gaze swept across the room, then rested on Kael. "This man," she said clearly, her voice ringing with authority, "stood beside me when my kingdom needed him. He risked everything, not for glory, not for reward, but because it was the right thing to do. He is my husband, bound to me by trust, courage, and loyalty. Let no one forget it." The room fell silent. Nobles blinked, some skeptical, some in awe, but the sincerity in her eyes left no room for argument. Kael felt a warmth bloom in his chest, the acceptance of a title he had never imagined he could hold, and yet it fit him perfectly. He stepped forward, finally understanding the weight of her trust. I will protect you, Princess, not because of a title, but because you trusted me, and because I believe in you." Elara's eyes glimmered with tears she refused to shed. "And I believe in you, Kael. Always." Outside the palace, the city began to stir. Survivors emerged from hiding, the smoke slowly lifting, revealing streets scarred by fire but alive. Children ran to embrace their parents, soldiers tended the wounded, and Aurelian breathed once more, free from the immediate threat. But inside the throne room, time seemed suspended. Kael and Elara stood together, the chest behind them, a symbol of trials faced and overcome. Their hands brushed, fingers intertwining naturally as though they had been meant to belong together all along. "You called me your husband," Kael murmured, voice low, "even when I didn't understand." "I saw you," Elara replied, her smile soft but resolute. "And I knew. Sometimes words must come before understanding. Sometimes courage and heart are more important than titles or history." Kael nodded, feeling a strange peace settle over him. He had entered the palace as a soldier, an outsider, unsure of his place. But now, beside Elara, he felt whole, recognized, chosen, and bound by something stronger than fate alone. The sunlight spilled fully into the throne room, golden and pure. It fell on them, on the chest and on the kingdom that had survived the night's darkness. Elara looked up at him one last time, her voice gentle but commanding. "Let them see, Kael. Let the world know that a kingdom can be saved by heart, not just blood, and that a princess can choose her own path." Kael smiled, stepping closer, their hands fully entwined. "Then let them see, together." And in that moment the whispers of the past faded. A new chapter began. A soldier who had dared, a princess who had trusted, and a kingdom that would remember that courage, loyalty, and love were the true pillars of power. The dawn of Aurelion was not just light spilling over its towers. It was a promise that even in the darkest night, hearts brave enough to stand together could shape history. And as the city stirred below, Kael and Elara remained hand in hand, the kingdom safe at last.